Hey guys, welcome. Today we are talking about Playfab, specifically user account creation and sign in. So, Playfab is a great online service. It's free to use in development up to 100,000 users, super generous. And we're going to use that to create an account and then use it to sign in, obviously, into our game to access user specific data or game specific data. Now, Playfab also offers two login mechanisms, one being the anonymous method, in which your device's ID is used to log into the same account to retrieve the same data. The other is a recoverable account using either Steam, Facebook, Google, the list goes on, or Playfab's generic type account, which is either a username and password combo or an email and password combo. So we're going to be doing that one. Let's get into it. So here we have a brand new Unity scene. This is now using Unity 2020.3, the LTS release, the latest one. All I've done here is a blank 3D project, and I've just added in the URP package because I like to use the URP for most of my projects. That's about it. There's nothing else in here. So we're going to just start off by importing a starter UI package, which I have over here. So you can find the link in the description below for that, to download that. Otherwise, you can create the UI yourself, but you are free to use this package if you wish. As you can see, it's just a bunch of fonts, some animations, some prefabs for buttons and input fields, and some icons and shapes. So if we go and import that, and let's bring in the account prefab, that one. That one has got all the necessary screens that we are going to be working with. So we have three basic screens. First of all, the login options. So either that's sign in or create a new account. And these are just canvases for each of the screens. So you can see each screen is just a hierarchy over here that gets turned on and off as needed. So the options can be turned off there. Turn on the sign in. And this will also just be canvas rather than game object. So the sign in screen just has a username and password, and the create account has got an email address, username and password field. Okay, so quite simple. Little back buttons to go back to the account options if you have created it or you're going to create an account and decide suddenly, oh, you do have an account. And the next button to actually, sign in or create the account there. So the UI is pretty simple. If you want to use this exact UI, you're more than welcome to. Like I said, the Unity package is in the description below. Okay, so now that we have the UI set up, plain and simple, we're going to need Playfab. So in order to get Playfab, we can just Google Playfab Unity GitHub, because we're looking specifically for a GitHub page over here. So it's this Unity SDK for Playfab. So if we click on that, we can go down. So it does have the entire SDK, but the best way to integrate this is actually to use the Playfab Unity editor extension. So this little link over here, click that, and that will download the Unity package for the Playfab Unity editor extension. You can just click that to open it up in our project here, and just import that. So we need the whole thing. And once that's done importing, then we can open up the editor extension. Okay, so now it's gone and opened up a little window over here. If yours doesn't open, I think you can find it under Window, Playfab, Editor Extensions, right there. Okay, so now it's going to ask you first of all to sign in. So we need to create or use our existing Playfab details over here. If you don't have an account, you can just go and say create an account. So put in all your details, create the account, the studio name, etc. You can also do this directly on Playfab's web portal. Otherwise, you can click this little login button there if you've already got details. So I'm just going to sign in real quick here. Signed in. Okay, so now once you're signed in, you've created your account, you've signed into the Playfab editor extension here. You'll see there's no SDK currently installed. So we need to install the latest SDK, and that's why this editor extension is better than getting the SDK directly off of GitHub, because this editor extension will also manage updating the SDK if there is an update. So we're just going to go and install the Playfab SDK over here. and it'll go and download it in the background. As you can see there, it's going to start importing, and we wait for that to finish. Okay, so we've got the latest SDK installed now. It says here you've got the latest SDK, and before making API calls, the SDK must be configured to your Playfab title. So now we need to select a title that this game is a part of, right? We're going to click on this little game manager link over here, and this will open up the developer portal for Playfab. So let's go and log in. Okay, and that'll take you to the portal over here. Now you can go and create a new studio and as many titles under that studio as you wish. So I'm going to use my Make Games Play Games studio over here, and I'm going to just add a new title over here. So click the little dots, new title, and this is just going to be for Playfab tutorial. And the rest really doesn't matter right now. So let's just save that. We can actually just get, there's the ID over there. So what we're interested in is this ID specifically. So now if we go back to Unity, and in the title ID bar, we can just paste in title ID. And usually it probably just needs a refresh, yeah. Refresh, project, okay, there we go. Now it's identified that ID as my Playfab tutorial game, and it's added in the specific key over there for testing. So we've got our title set up. That's it for the Playfab setup. We're good to go now. We've linked that all up. We've signed in, so we can close that. We don't need that anymore. And now we can start actually creating the scripts that allow us to log in, sign in, create an account, all that sort of stuff. So what we're going to need is a script to manage all the account signing in, logging out, all the Playfab related stuff, right? So let's go and create a new scripts folder over here. And we're just going to go create a new C# script and call this, let's call it user account manager. And let's open up that script. We're also just going to drag and drop that onto the account over here. Okay, and now we have our brand new script over here. I'm going to make it a bit bigger so it's easier for you guys to read. And take that out, format it. Okay, so at the top of the script, we do need to say using Playfab, and we also need using Playfab.client models. So let's start off with creating an account. So we're just going to do a straight up public void create account, and we're going to create an account based on a username and password, or actually no, we're also going to do an email address just to make sure that our accounts are completely unique. And this will also just prevent people from creating Smurf accounts, or making it a bit more difficult to create Smurf accounts and actually manage that, because it does have to use an email address every time you create a new account. Okay, so we create an account and we need to then call up the Playfab API, right? So to do that, we're going to do Playfab client API, and we're going to say dot. And now if we just scroll down, we can see all the options over here. So I do highly recommend just looking through what there is here to give you a better understanding of the capabilities of Playfab. What we're really interested in over here is we're going to register Playfab user. Now, as I said in the intro, Playfab does allow multiple different types of login authentications. We're just going to use the straight up Playfab user. They're not going to use Google or Facebook or Steam or whatever. We're just going to use a straight up Playfab user. But to use any of those other authentication methods, it's a very similar process. And now what we need inside these brackets, first of all, we're going to use a new, and automatically it shows up, Playfab, register Playfab user request. And in this request, there are a few items here. So if we just control space, we can see all the options related to that Playfab user request, right? So we can set the display name or the username, require both, etc. There's a few items here. What we're interested in is just populating like the email equals email address. We're going to do password equals password, and we're going to do username equals username. So if you don't want to require having a username and a password, but rather one or the other, you can also just do the require both. It's set to false by default, so actually you don't even need to add that. But if you do want to require both, then you can just say equals true here. Okay, so we are registering the Playfab user over here. If we look at the signature over here, we need the request, then we need the result callback and an error callback. So we're going to do that over here as an extended Lambda expression. So the response is going to equal whatever we put in those brackets, and the error is going to equal whatever we put inside those brackets there. So this is a nice little structured call over here to the Playfab API. You might not be familiar with writing code this way, but it's just a way of writing everything nicely, neat in line. It's nicely indented as well. Just know that the same pattern applies to every API call in Playfab, in that you call something and then there's a request version of that same name. So if you register Playfab user, there's a register Playfab user request. Okay, so once the response comes back, let's just go and log out successful account creation, and let's do the username and email address over there. And we can also do the same thing, just duplicate that and do unsuccessful account creation, so that we know what's going on there. And with the error, we can actually just add that, or we should just add that over here. Let's do \n, so that's just a new line, and then give it the error message. So that'll just give the error message there. Okay, so that's going to create a new account. So let's link this up with a UI script. So we don't want to do any of the UI stuff inside of our account manager. We would rather separate that just to make everything nice and streamlined and make sure that this is seriously just focused on communicating with Playfab. Okay, so we're going to go and save that. Go back to our scripts over here. I'm going to create a folder for UI just because there's usually quite a few UI scripts. And this is going to be UI. And it's going to be create account. Okay, so UI create account. We're going to drop that on the create account parent over there. And this is going to deal with taking in UI input. So we're going to need using Unity Engine.ui, and then calling on user account manager over here. So we also do need to make user account manager a singleton just so that it's easier to access. And I'm going to do it the easy way over here by just going public static user account manager instance, and in the awake method instance equals this. There are better ways to do singletons where you inherit from a singleton class that checks for duplicates, etc. But I mean, if you're writing the code yourself, you should be able to tell or just structure your game in a way that you only have one account manager at any one time. Otherwise, you're going to create errors. And this also just avoids having hard links from your UI scripts up to manager type scripts, which you really don't want because that's super easy to break. So we're going to have our UI account, create account over here. And first of all, we are going to need some strings for the username, the password, and the email address, right? Then we're going to need a public void update username with a string, and it's going to be username equals underscore username, and this is going to come from the input fields. So we're going to do 3 of those, and username over here, we're going to change that to password, and that to password, and this one to email address, and that's to email address as well. Okay, so these are our 3 input field updaters, which will just then obviously load the data into there. Then when we're ready to finally click on the button, it's going to be public void create account, and that's a button call. And then we're going to use user account manager dot instance dot create account, and we need to give it the username, the email, and the password. Okay, easy peasy. Update those with the input fields and with the button. So let's link those up now. Okay, so under content, we have the username, the password, and the email. These are all input fields over here. And on value change, this is what we're interested in over here. When the value changes, let's update it in the script. So let's click the little plus, drag in our create account, and under UI create account, we have these under dynamic string. Make sure it's under dynamic. If it's under static over here, these ones, it's not going to actually push the data from the input field through to that function. So you need to use these ones up here. And we're going to just select that one. Then on username, change that to username. And on password, change that one to password. Okay, so email is updating, username is updating, password is updating. Then we just need the sign in button. Okay, well, this sign in should actually be create account. And in the on click over here, we're also going to drag in our create account option, and it's going to be create account. So that's what the button does when we click it, right? Okay, then what we need to do is also under our options over here under sign in, if we click the sign in button, then we need to drag in that sign in canvas and just enable it. And if we click the create button, then we need to drag in the create option and canvas and enable that canvas. Okay, so that just enables that canvas, and then we need to disable these canvases as well. I mean, we could write this in script, but this is just the easiest way to do this right now. Just drag it in and have it go off on the function, on the button call rather. Okay, and we'll keep that as the default there. So let's put that on. And also our back button. So the back button from sign in is going to turn this canvas off, and it's going to turn the options canvas back on. Oops, that one, turn it on. Same goes for the create account. We turn off create account and we turn on account options. So just enable that right there. Okay, so that takes care of the button presses there. Okay, and our buttons don't work because I don't have an event system. So for UI to work, because I dragged in that prefab and I didn't actually go and create an item here, it didn't end up creating the event system. So we do need an event system in the scene, and now we should be able to interact with those buttons. There we go. Okay, and as you can see, it does come with some nice hover effects as well, that package that I mentioned. Okay, so if we go to sign in, it takes us to the sign in. We go back, we go to create. Cool, everything's nice and linked. So let's test our create account. So we're going to go and I'm just going to do like test@tests.com, username testing, and password testing. You can see this input field is actually set to password as well. That's why it does these nice little asterisks over there. Okay, so now we're going to create account. It's going to call it, so unrecognized content encoding. That's interesting. Okay, so we found a fix for this issue over here. This is apparently a new issue in the latest versions of Unity and the Playfab SDK along with Windows. So it's a Windows related issue and Playfab, and it has to do with the way it compresses the data before it sends it to the servers. So we can actually just go and fix it under Playfab edit extensions, and this little compress API data, we need to uncheck that for now. Create an account and let's try Bob. Come on, Bob. Creating account, success. Okay, we are creating successful accounts. Go back to the dashboard and we go into players and we refresh. So just press the search button here. Okay, so we've deleted out all of those players now. We have successfully created accounts. With the create account button, once we do successfully create it, we then need to sign in with that same account. So let's add that step now to our script. So after creating an account, then let's add in the public void sign in. And what we're going to do is we're only signing in with a username and a password. So username and string password. And we're going to do the same kind of process over here. So we're going to do Playfab client API dot, and then it's going to be login with Playfab. So we're going to do login with Playfab, and if we just control space, login with Playfab request. So actually no, it's going to be new login with Playfab request over there. End that line off, and then in our brackets, now we're going to do a username equals username and password equals password. Then if there is a response and if there is an error. Okay, we got the response, and let's just copy paste that one to say successful account login, and we're just using that, and we can do unsuccessful account login with an error message. Like so. Okay, so once we do get the response, it's been successful, then let's do the sign in using the same username and password right there. So we just daisy chain this. Now we're going to use the same sign in method for the other screen as well, the sign in screen, and we're also going to create a UI for that. So let's just test our whole process over again. So we're going to run it. We're going to go create an account. We're going to do an email address over here. This is a test at gmail.com, and also a test, and still testing. So we create an account, successful account creation, and successful account login for also a test. Fan-freaking-tastic. Okay, so we've got that sign in successfully working, and now we can also, let's link up the actual sign in screen. So we're going to need another script. and that's going to be UI sign in. Okay, let's add the UI over there, get rid of that, and this is going to be, we're going to copy paste a bit over here. So we need the username and the password, and then we need that one as well. So let's paste that. We can get rid of email address, we don't need that, we just need username, password, and that's going to be sign in. Sign in and username, password. Okay, that is all we need for that one. Perfect. Okay, so we go and drop that UI sign in script over there. Let's link up the input fields. So remember, on value changed, drop in that script there, and we use the dynamic one. So let's just go update password, and then this one we change over to update username. Then with the sign in button, we click that, and that's going to be sign in, UI sign in, sign in. Okay. So now we've created the also a test. And the password was still a test. Unsuccessful account login. I think it was actually still testing. There we go. Successful login for also a test. Okay, sign in is working now. So now obviously we want to, move on to the next screen. We can do that real quick with some Unity events. So we have the user account manager over here. Let's do Unity engine dot events, and we're going to do public static Unity event on login success. We need on login failed, and for the failed one we are going to give it a string. If your Unity is throwing errors because you can't do this, it's just because you're on an older version of Unity from 2020.3 LTS. You can add in these inline versions of Unity event, which is so great. Okay, so we got on login success and fail, and then we also need on, we don't need on create account success because that's going to come through the login over there. We do need on create account failed, and we're going to use that to give the error message back to the UI, and the UI can then display that error message over there. So if we did fail the account creation over here, then we just go on create account failed and give it error message at .invoke over there, and then same goes for the failure over here, and this is going to be on sign in fail, and we called it on login fail. I'm going to rename those, use the same naming for everything. And I'm just clicking F2 to rename that item there, so it renames it everywhere. I don't have to go and manually rename it. Very handy. Okay, so we've got the fail over there and the fail over there, and then we just need the on login or on sign in success over here, which will then move on to the next canvas. Okay, so we've got that working. Now we just need to listen to those events and actually do something about it. So over here, let's do a serialized field for text and say error text. And then over here, we're going to do on enable and we're going to listen to user account manager dot on, and this is create account, so on create account fail, and we're going to add a listener, and we're going to say void on create account. Let's just use the same exact naming, string error, and add that as the listener there. And then we also need to do a remove listener in the on disable over here. Remove listener. Cool. Then over here it's going to be error text dot text equals error. Okay, so that sorts out the error for that one, and then we can just copy paste all of that for the sign in as well. So we have that, and that's going to be based on sign in fail, and then we need another one for on sign in success. And if it is on sign in success, then we need to close out this canvas. So let's just add it in over here as a serialized field, canvas, and canvas dot enabled equals false. Now we are going to need to do the same thing actually on the create account as well. Like so, and the canvas over there. Okay, so we just turn the canvases on and off for both of those. Okay, so sign in needs the canvas reference, and it also needs error text, so which is that one. It's already included there. And same for create account, we need the error and we need the canvas. Okay, so let's test this out. Okay, but that's only going to change the error text. It needs to turn it on as well. And I believe... Okay, just need to turn it on over here. So error text dot game object dot set active to true. And same for that one. Okay, so user not found. Okay, now we get some useful feedback there. And if we don't put anything in there, invalid input parameters. So even a username has to be more than, I think it's 3 characters. There we go. Yeah, so 3 characters or more for a username to be valid. So let's try out also a test and still testing. Success, and it turns off all our canvases. We're now in the game. And for the create account, let's just test that. So we go create account and we go let's go apple@banana.com and apple banana, and password is apple. Unsuccessful. Okay, apple banana. Okay, there we go. There must be some parameters which I'm not aware of that Playfab checks if it's like an appropriate password. So you might want to look into that a bit more. But as we can see here, signing in is working, creating an account and then signing in is working. The canvases are turning off. Everything is hunky-dory. In the next tutorial, we'll be using Playfab to store and retrieve user data and game data. If you found this video insightful, please give it a like, consider subscribing, and if you have any thoughts on the content, please feel free to drop a comment down below. And if you need any assistance or some kind of feedback, the Discord channel is open to all questions Unity, Mirror, Playfab, and actually anything game related. So, cool. Cheers.